Hi, today's session is very exciting. It's going to be on flying changes, and I have my assistant, Megan Maurice, here again, and Lace is back to demonstrate flying changes. Lace is just learning her changes, which is good for you to see because you're going to see some of the issues that you'll be running into as you introduce flying changes. Because a flying change is a little bit more difficult because up until this moment in time, with the young horse, you've only done changes of lead through the trot, canter, and then as the horse gets a little more advanced, you do simple changes of lead. And if you hear the word simple, it automatically means you're going to walk. So it's canter, then you walk for 3 or 4 strides, and then you canter again. But in a flying change, there's no walk or trot. The horse just goes directly from one canter stride to the other stride. And basically, the aids are the same as for a canter depart because you're asking the horse to do a strike off to the canter during the period of suspension. But let me tell you some specifics about the aids for flying changes. That's just a little bit different in your mind perhaps. When we start, our emphasis is on our outside aids. As the horse becomes more advanced and more confirmed in the flying changes, you'll find that there's a little bit different influence in the aids, whereas the inner leg becomes a little bit more important than the outer leg. But for the horse that's just starting out, the predominant aids, but remember, all of your aids will have a role, but the predominant aids are your outside rein and outside leg, and I'll tell you why. Let's pretend that we're going to do a flying change from, you're just going to stay here for now, from left lead to right lead. So the horse is on left lead canter, and during the if the horse is on left lead canter, that means the horse is striking off with the right hind leg. That's the first beat of the canter. Right hind, diagonal pair of left hind, right fore, and then the left front is the leading leg. In the period of suspension, the horse has to reorganize her legs, and she has to come down first with the left hind leg in order to end up on the right lead. So that'll give you a clue of what the predominant aids are for the horse that's just learning flying changes. First of all, we know that from our ABCs that our legs command the hind legs. So during the period of suspension, and in a little while I'll show you how to find that, your new outside leg will windshield wiper behind the girth in order to signal that outside hind leg to strike off. So that's the aid, and remember, it's a quick bump bump. It's not bringing the leg back and holding it back, because if you train your horse to do the flying change by holding your leg back, you're going to be in trouble further on in training when you try to do flying changes in a sequence, like every 4 strides or 3 strides or 2 strides, because if it takes the horse so long to answer, your horse won't have time to switch back to the other lead, and you're really in trouble when you try to do one tempi. So it's a quick windshield wiper action that just signals to the outside hind leg that it's to step. Then, at the same time you're doing that, you're going to close your outside hand in a fist. It's a quick action, like you're snatching a fly out of the air. Exactly. So the predominant aids for the horse that's learning are outside rein and outside leg. Boom, release. Close, release. Swing, release. Outside rein and outside leg together, because the new outside leg signals the horse's new outside hind, and the closing of a hand in the fist sticks that hind leg on the ground. And if this is the hind leg that starts after the period of suspension, the horse will end up switching her leads. Now the other aids have a role, and like I said, as the horse is more advanced, their role becomes more important. But your weight, like any normal aid for a canter depart, your weight in this case would be on the right seat bone, and you think about your right seat bone going forward to the horse's right hip. The horse has a little bit of flexion. Remember, +1 flexion just refers to the face of the horse being 1 inch to the right of a neutral position. Neutral position meaning that the chin of the horse is right in the middle crease of her chest. And we get that from the little turn of the key on the lock on the right rein. And your right leg is on the girth, and that's the aid that will become more important later on, because once the horse basically knows how to do the flying change, we want the horse to do a forward flying change, a big flying change, an expressive flying change. So you will still be signaling the change with that outside leg, windshield wipering behind the girth, but a little squeeze with the inner leg on the girth becomes more important. Now, one of the things that we're going to practice right here in the halt, and you can do this because I'm going to do it, you can do it on the ground, off the horse, to give you some muscle memory of how to apply your aids in the change without putting all these extra miles on the horse. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do the outside rein and outside leg in the halt. So we're going to change, good, and change, and snatch a fly out of the air, and the leg comes back. This is new outside rein and new outside leg. Now here's the tricky thing, and this is what I want you to practice. Oftentimes riders pull on the inside rein in a flying change, and that causes a whole lot of problems, like bending the horse in the neck, and then the horse is crooked and on the forehand. It also blocks the new inside hind leg from coming forward, so sometimes the horse takes a short stride with it, or the horse changes late behind. So a good thing for you to practice, and this is an exaggeration, but I want you to exaggerate it until you get the muscle memory, is that at the same time, we'll just do the hands first. She's one step ahead of me. ESP, stop that. Okay, so no leg right now, but we're going to close the outer hand in the fist and soften. Good, good. So what you're seeing is the left hand being closed in a fist and the right hand, good, being softening forward. Now we're going to add the windshield wiper of the left leg, good, to all of that. There you go. So that would be the aid for the change from left to right. Okay, you got that? So those are the aids. Now you need to know the timing of those aids, because if you give the aids at the wrong moment, the horse can't answer. Remember, the time that the horse is going to answer is during the period of suspension, when all four legs are off the ground. But it takes a moment for you to give those aids you just saw, and another moment for the horse to mentally compute that you've asked her to do something, so that then she can carry out the flying change. So if you ask for the flying change during the period of suspension, by the time the horse can answer you, it's too late. So you want to think about timing your flying change with the outside front leg of the horse coming to the ground. And you can learn that by using your sense of sight to help you. And you can learn it in the walk. The walk and the canter are very closely related, so that's a good way for you to learn the timing. So Megan, just walk on a circle to the right. And keeping your head erect, peek down the end of your nose so you can see her inside leading leg, her right front leg. And then in a big loud voice, every time you see that right front leg coming forward and just about touching the ground, say the word now.
Now.
Good.
Now.
Good. Perfect.
Now.
Perfect.
Now.
Okay. Now that was perfect, and you can do that in the walk so you can learn that feeling. Now she's just going to canter around, and she's going to do the same thing in the canter. She's going to peek down the end of her nose and watch for that leading leg and seeing when it's coming forward. Good. Good. So in a big loud voice.
Now.
Good.
Now.
Now, now, now.
Now.
Perfect.
Now.
Good. Now, obviously, walk for a second, Megan. When I was explaining the aids, I was talking about a change in the other direction, but she's in right lead. So if she were going across the diagonal in right lead, as she was counting now, she would be closing her right hand in a fist, bringing her right leg back, and softening her left hand forward. But first you need to know the aids. Secondly, you need to find the timing of the aids, both in the walk and just in a true canter. Then you actually start working on flying changes without doing any changes, because the horse needs to be able to do three things before they can do a good flying change. I'll tell you what those three things are, and then Megan will briefly demonstrate each of those three things. The horse has to have a balanced counter canter, and if you saw our lesson on counter canter, you can see that Megan and Lace do have a balanced counter canter, but we'll show that a little bit now if you haven't looked at that lesson yet. They also need to have a good, simple change of lead. Remember, simple means canter, walk, canter, with no dribbly trot steps in between. And you'll be able to see that this is a little bit of a challenge still for Lace, but she's getting it. She's getting it enough that Megan can still start to school some flying changes. But we need, secondly, that good simple change of lead. And then thirdly, we want the balance of the horse to be somewhat collected. The horse has to do a collected canter. So Megan will do an exercise where she'll just do kind of like a working canter, and then for 3 strides at a time, she'll bring the horse back underneath her, almost on the spot, for about 3 strides, and then go forward again, so that she shows the horse's adjustability of loading the hind legs for a few strides, then going forward and loading the hind legs. So without even asking for a flying change, if you start to work on these 3 things in your riding, you are laying a foundation for doing flying changes. So let's do the first thing. You can go in whichever direction you like. We're just going to ride a balanced counter canter. That's one of the 3 foundational things. Good, beautiful transition. So you see she has her absolutely straight, cantering with her arms, so she pushes the poor horse's nose out on the, good, on the 3rd beat of the canter. That's beautiful. Turn around at V. Good, good, beautiful, just beautiful. So this is a nice balanced counter canter we have. Very nice balanced counter canter. Good. Good. Now go across a short diagonal, Megan, like from H to B, so that you end up on true canter, and do a 20-meter circle between E and B, where you're going to canter on the spot for a couple strides. You don't have to come really onto the spot, but just show a loading of the hind legs, a little shifting of the center of gravity back to the hind legs. Good, good, good. And then let her go. And then stretch up, outside rein goes, take, give, take, give, take, give, to say, bend your hind legs. Good, good, beautiful, and forward. And then just show that one more time for us, because that was beautiful. So she stretches up, she closes both legs, and outside hand goes, take, give, take, give, take, give. Bring her back a little more if you can. Good, good, super, and forward. That was so good, I want you to do that again. I want you to watch the bend of the joints of the horse's hind legs. Good, good, yeah. And that the croup goes down. Very nice. Okay, well, just walk for a second. I want to make a point about that. So that was interesting what Lace did right there. Shows you the degree of strength that she has. When we only collected her a little bit, she could do that easily. When we started to really challenge her and make her really bend the joints of her hind legs and sit down even more, then she showed us she wasn't 100% strong enough to do that by changing her rhythm and her tempo. And Megan was very aware of that, and she quickened the tempo, because think about your training scale. We never do anything at the expense of rhythm and tempo. So even though I got all excited because she was collecting her very nicely, and I got a little bit greedy and wanted to see how much more she could collect her, when she bumped her up a notch, Lace said, whoa, this is hard. Big, deep knee bends. This is harder than I think that I can do. And so she slowed down her tempo, and then Megan quickened that. And so the next time we would either back off a little bit in the collection department, or be aware that she might get slow and keep the tempo quicker from the revolutions of the seat, and maybe a little bump with the your outside leg to get the outside hind leg to fire faster. So the third thing that the horse should be able to do are simple changes of lead. Canter, walk, canter. So why don't you go on whatever pattern you want, either a figure 8 or a serpentine, and just quietly do some simple changes. And what we're looking for ideally is that there are no dribbly trot steps, either on the up or the down transition. Oh, that's lovely, Megan. Because in order to do the canter, walk, canter, the horse has to be collected. Otherwise, good, they fall through the trot. That was lovely. Tell her, good girl. Just beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so there was one little step of trot there, but basically those were very, very good. So walk for a second and go toward E. So those are the three foundational things, and she has them pretty well established enough to start the flying changes. And the simplest exercise I've found to introduce the flying change is to do a figure 8 with simple changes in between the two small circles. So when you're ready, Megan, do like a 10-meter circle at E, walk on the center line, and pick up the right lead, do a 10-meter circle at B. So you do a couple of simple changes. Then when you feel that your horse is anticipating that she's going to swap from one lead to the other, you can ask for the flying change. So walk. Now take the time to bend her to the right. Right seatbelt. Oh, well done you. Beautiful. Nice canter, walk, canter transitions. And the horse is nice up in front because she's taking weight with the hind legs. This is beautiful. Keep her up. Good. Good. Take the time to organize. Very nice. Now if she feels on the aids, this time instead of a simple change, bring your left leg behind the girth, close your left hand in a fist, soften your right hand forward, and quietly ask for the change. Oh, okay. She was a little bit late in front. She changed first behind, and that's a much less serious fault than changing late behind. Do a simple change on this one now. Come back to the walk. Yeah, because we want to redo that last one. Repetition of an exercise is the mildest form of punishment. So this time, make sure you soften your right hand forward so that you know your right hand isn't blocking the flying change. Beautiful. Walk and pattern. Make a big fuss. That was beautiful. You see that mistake less frequently than the other mistake, which I'm going to talk about in a second, which is the horse changing late behind. I never worry in the learning stages if a horse changes late in front. I want to know that they're thinking with the hind legs, and if they're thinking with the hind legs, then I know that it's usually a rider thing, that the rider hasn't softened that new inside hand forward. And as soon as she did that, she got a lovely, smooth flying change. That was great. But like I said, the more common mistake is that the horse changes late behind. And in the beginning stages of training, I really don't care if the horse comes off the bit. I don't care if the horse answers the aid a stride or two behind the time that you ask. I don't care if the horse rushes off. All of those things I know will go away in the course of training. But for me, the priority is that the horse changes cleanly, that the horse does not change late behind. So we're just going to demonstrate two exercises for horses that tend to change late behind. The first exercise is to go around the ring in counter canter, but we're going to supple the horse like you learned in the lesson on suppling, away from the lead that she's on. So if she's on right lead canter, to the left she's going to go -7 and back to neutral. -7 meaning she's going to take the horse's neck 7 inches, in this case to the left, of straight ahead. Now the reason we supple the horse like this is that one of the reasons the horse does not change with the hind leg is that the horse is leaning on your left leg, good Megan, and is not through the new inside of her body, the left side of her body. So by going on right lead canter, but bending her neck to the left, we get her soft through her body. Very nice on the left side. Very nice. So that she's through the left side of her body. Yeah, let her take a break on that. That was beautiful anyhow. Okay, so if you can take the horse's neck 7 inches in the opposite direction from the lead that they're on, and the horse feels soft and it doesn't take you power in your hand to do that, you know the horse is through the new inside of the body, and the horse can therefore probably jump through with that new inside hind leg because he's not running into his own body as a result of leaning on your left leg. Now here's another throughness exercise to help with a horse that tends to change late behind. We're going to do a counter canter in haunches out, or renvers. And then what she's going to do is have the horse bend to the right, I guess, bent to the right. Hindquarters are going to be in the track. Forehand is going to be on a little bit inside track. keeping the weight on your right seat bone so the horse doesn't do a flying change. And she will alternate from the renvers to bringing the horse's neck to the left. Good. And then back to renvers and bringing the horse's neck to the left. Good. And do that again on the next long side. Beautiful. And what she wants to feel in the moments where she's straightening the horse's neck is that the horse is pushed from her left leg to her right rein. And good. And only in the moment where she feels that the horse is pushed from the left leg to the right rein. Did you feel that, Megan? That was super. That would be the moment to ask for the change. So it's up to you whether you just want to do this exercise and leave it at that, or if you do feel you have her pushed from left leg to right rein, then just quietly ask. Beautiful, walk and pat her. That's awesome. That's great because she's just learning these changes, and that happens to be the side, right to left, that she doesn't always change cleanly. She tends to change late behind. But by doing those two throughness exercises and getting the horse through the new inside of her body, then it was easier for her to jump through with the new inside hind leg. That was lovely. The other advantage of this last exercise we just did is that one of the mistakes that horses make is they tend to do the flying change and swing their quarters to the inside to avoid bending the joints of the inside hind leg. But you can see if you start in that little bit of haunches out position, straighten the neck, when you do the change, you end up in a shoulder fore position with the inside hind leg tucked directly under the body of the horse. So there you have it. There's a great introduction to flying changes. You have learned the aids for the change, the timing of when to ask for the change, the three foundational things you need to know before you ask for the change. In other words, your horse has to have good counter canter, good collected canter, and good simple changes of lead, and then a simple pattern to start, like our figure 8, so that we use the horse's desire to anticipate that they're going to swap from one lead to the other to help us with the flying change. Plus, by being on a fairly small figure like that, the tendency for the horse to rush away will be that much less because the horse is a little bit more confined. And then we finished with a couple of exercises to help the horse that has a habit of changing late with the hind legs. So, Lace and Megan, that was awesome. Thank you very much.